Hello, and welcome to Catholicism in the Car. My name is Parker Zerbal. Today, let's talk about the crisis in Catechesis in the Catholic Church. This crisis affects all of us. It affects children, it affects adults, it affects those who do know the tenets of their faith, and it also especially affects those who do not. It appears from the research that I have done that ever since about the 1950s and 60s, there has been a very real crisis of catechesis in our church. It started in the 50s and a little before, where really all it was taught was what to believe. Oftentimes, the catechists would just go through the Baltimore Catechism, which is a great book, a great catechism, but they would not necessarily go into all of the whys and also the hows of our faith. Moving on into the 60s and the 70s, particularly in the aftermath of the Second Vatican Council, there was quite a bit of confusion within the church, not only liturgically, as is often pointed out, but also catechetically. People, for some reason, got it in their heads that church teaching had changed on a vast number of issues. For a while there, people didn't even know if contraception was something that could be done, even though the time-old practice of the church was to forbid it. Others seem to neglect or right out denounce our teaching on the real presence of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. Others reverted into old heresies in an attempt to simplify the faith for the sake of evangelization, or what they considered evangelization. Now that's another very interesting topic that we might get into today. But the crisis in catechesis, really there are two extremes. The first, which is stereotypically attributed to the time before the Second Vatican Council, is that of teaching the whats of the faith without the whys. So you may learn that we as Catholics believe in the true presence of the Eucharist, but you are not taught why. You may learn that we believe in the Immaculate Conception, but are not taught why. Many other examples could follow. Now, the opposite extreme is a type of watering down of the whats, to try to appeal to people's question of why. Now, this fundamentally comes down to a problem of the person catechizing not really understanding the whys and the whats of our faith. They will, let's see, what's a good example? They will say, let's just take the Eucharist for a similar example. they will say, well, we believe in the true presence of the Eucharist, but what that really means is that we believe in a spiritual presence. But it's true. It's a true spiritual presence in the Eucharist. Which, historically, that is a very Calvinistic concept. The spiritual true presence within the Eucharistic species. This latter portion is often rooted in what used to be called modernism, where verbatim people will still give lip service to the teachings of the faith once, but they will change in a significant or even fundamental way the why behind the teaching. They will use the same words. They will say, again, for example, the true presence in the Eucharist, but they will change the definition of what true presence actually means. To them, it would not mean transubstantiation. It would not mean substance-accidents distinction. But it would mean some kind of spiritual reality, and keep it at that. So we have these two extremes, and both of these extremes have different facets upon them. One is the old quote-unquote older extreme of before the council. Children growing up in that time really did know a lot about their faith. They just didn't know why they believed it. Which led to the opposite extreme that we've talked about. And today, it appears that, depending on where you go, you can get either of these extremes. It also, very much depends upon the particular catechist and how much they know, what their experience is, things of this nature. Today, it seems that we often see kind of a combination of these, the bad parts of these two extremes. So someone will teach as though all that they know is the what's of our faith, and not explain the whys. But then, since they don't fundamentally understand these things, they will then just water them down anyway. They'll say, we believe in the true presence of the Eucharist and all these different things. They'll teach all the different tenets of the Catholic faith, but they will have some problematic interpretations of those beliefs. They'll still say all the same words. They'll, if you only looked at, the headings of each of their books or their classes, you would say, oh, this person is Orthodox. But this is not the case. Now, what do I propose? First off, we have also in recent times been focusing more upon our children to the detriment of the Catechesis for adults. And the church has come out in, I believe it was the late 2000s, with a document specifically on catechesis. I'm blanking on the name right now. But in this document, they not only suggest, but really declare that catechesis should be primarily for adults. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't catechize children, but they're thinking from the root problem here that that if the adults do not know their faith, when they go to teach the children also will not know their faith. And this is not knowing your faith in just the what's. This is also the whys and the hows of our faith. So the knowledge, just the prima facie knowledge is the what's, and then the deeper knowledge of the whys, and then the hows of our faith. What's the practice of our faith? What are particularly good, time-tested practices of our faith? So, as my wife and I have been involved in catechesis for many years, we recently have, in the last year and a half to 2 years, have kind of inserted ourselves into a new parish, and we've been trying to convey that the parish needs to start some sort of adult catechesis. They've had religious ed just like every parish for forever, but the catechists don't know what they're talking about, and thus the kids are bored and are learning oftentimes things that are not orthodox. So basically that's what we've been suggesting, is that not only do we need to get back to a balance in teaching, in catechesis, between the what's and the whys, and then also teaching the hows, but we need to prioritize our adults for the sake of our children. For the sake of our children. Okay. Thank you.